The truth of the matter is people aren't hiring you because you can do it better than anyone else. People are hiring you because of the systems and processes you have in place. And that's where I really started growing, is realizing that it's not me, it's we. And when you put the right people in the right place and you don't try and stick a square peg in a round hole, but you have the systems, you have the people, and you have that structure in place, that's where real growth happens.
Good morning. Welcome to another Real Estate First Friday. My name is Matthew Hodge, Executive Vice President, actually co-EVP here at LPT Realty, joined by Louis Fermin, the other EVP.
Good morning.
Morning.
Happy to be back.
Yeah.
What a cancellation last week.
Yeah.
That was a crazy experience we went through. And we thank you guys for cooperating with us. I mean, we went through something a little crazy.
So last week we had to cancel and reschedule. We had Christie Cannon, who will be on today in just a little bit, was scheduled for last week. And we had to cancel because we were flying, where were we flying from? Montana. And as we were on the runway, so it was snowing, obviously drastically different weather than where we are today. It was snowing and they were using like de-icing fluid on the plane to like, I guess, get the snow off or whatever. And so we're sitting on the runway. They kept de-icing it. And so we go to start taking off and I guess de-icing fluid got sucked into the airplane engine and caught on fire. And so like, as we are like probably doing like 150, like I don't know, we take off like 180.
Nose is coming off the ground.
Like we're about to take off. Then all of a sudden they realize this is happening and like slam on the brakes, which feels really weird. I know. It's American Airlines too. Same thing. Me and Dave have another crazy experience with this. But anyways, so that ended up happening. So it ultimately delayed our flight. We got stuck there for the night and then had to be in the air on Real Estate First Friday time the next day. So we were unable to make this. So we are here today, safe and sound, and excited to be with you. Excited to have Christie on today, Christie Cannon is from Texas, runs a massive team, very well organized, really well run. Great culture. We had the opportunity to meet her and her entire staff out there a few months ago, and just a really good operation to, I say, pull nuggets from. Do about 1,600 transactions per year. Louis, anything you kind of want to add to that?
I mean, top 20 team in the nation, #1 team out of Dallas. I mean, a phenomenal team Christie Cannon runs out there, an amazing group of individuals. I mean, the culture that she's been able to build there is purely amazing, and it starts from a place of pouring back to all your agents and those that believe in your vision. So let's go ahead and welcome in Christie Cannon today. Good morning, Christie.
Hey, good morning. How are y'all doing?
Doing very well. Happy to be here.
Well, I am thrilled to be here. And after you talking about the airplane, I am flying to y'all's neck of the woods tomorrow. And thank goodness there is no bad weather, because now I'm a little nervous.
It was pretty intense, man. But I think I've gotten used to it. For whatever reason, I seem to bring audio issues and airplane issues. So don't fly with me, apparently. I just bring it all around.
You tell me this now.
Yeah, I know. After you've been subjected to the thing. But we're so excited to have you today. We want to kind of go through a couple of different things with you, because what we noticed about your particular organization was that not only were you guys really well run, the culture was phenomenal, but agents were super productive. And so we wanted to ask from your chair, who was obviously overseeing these agents, kind of like, where does it come from? Where does it start? Like, what systems are put in place? What is the mindset? Like, how is this being formed together? And even if you're an individual agent listening to this, you should be able to pull from those things that would make sense for you on an individual level. So Chris, with that being kind of said, I kind of want to ask some questions. First, tell us a little bit about your business, how long you've been in the industry, how many transactions you're doing a year, team size, all the things, and we'll kind of jump in.
It's kind of I've been doing this since 2003, which is quite some time. And when I started off as an individual agent, as most of us do. And I never had an intention of running a huge team. That wasn't what I was in it for. So when I started, it was just me, myself, and I. But the one thing I realized right off the bat was in order to do this effectively, I need some sort of leverage. I need something because I can't do all things by myself and find success. And all I wanted to do was 2 transactions a month. Kevin was in the Army. He was military. He was shipped off to Afghanistan in 2001, and he was doing his thing. He was working toward a government contracting job, and I was doing real estate. So we were living on a military salary, which isn't amazing. So I thought if I can do 2 transactions a month, I'll be doing great. And I realized that if I'm able to focus on clients, if I'm able to focus on their success and have someone help me out with the back end, maybe helping with contract to close in running CDAs, I'll be able to put more time and effort into those clients. So I never did a CDA. I never did a contract to close. I right when I started my very first contract, I hired someone immediately and said, if you can do this part, let me take care of the rest. And then things started growing and building. I started getting referrals. And then I started getting more business than I could actually handle from referrals and opportunities and agent referrals. And it wasn't a lot. Don't get me, no, it sounds like a lot. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough that I started thinking I need help. And I started trying to do everything on my own and trying to figure out systems without really looking into it. And I didn't come from a business background. I came from no college education with very little college and just trying to run everything by myself. So as I started to try and recreate the wheel that other people had already mastered, I realized that I need to slow down in order to speed up. And that took a lot because it's hard for me to slow down. But I knew if I slowed down enough to figure everything out and truly get some systems in place, that I'll be able to go much faster going forward. So we, around 2007, Kevin caught wind that I was going to have to start hiring people and paying salaries because I just wasn't getting where I needed to fast enough. And so he put all of his government contracting on pause and came over and said, I'll assist you. And so he was my sign runner. He was my just assistant basically on the day to day. And I ended up hiring a full-time assistant, and we've just organically grew until about I guess it was right around 2020 timeframe. And we partnered up with Zillow on Flex. And through that time, from the time Kevin joined until 2020, through that time, I was attending every conference that I could to learn and understand business, to learn and understand the economics of running P&Ls and all of those things. So now I feel like I'm pretty well versed on it. And we've done a pretty good job of keeping and running a business to this point. So now we are full steam ahead, and we're at 103 agents now, but we are growing rapidly. And our goal now, the sky's the limit. I think that when we start looking at systems and mindset, I think that mindset is a ceiling and what you believe you achieve. And so when you have that ceiling of unlimited opportunity, that's where you can head. But when you have those limiting beliefs, I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. So here we are. We're doing transactions. We have a full success team. We have about 12 full-time staff, and we have virtual employees as well. And we are ready to take off.
Yeah, absolutely. And you did how many transactions in 2025?
In 2025, we were right around, I think, 1251 buy-sell transactions, and that didn't count our referrals and our leases. So we're up there in the, I think just shy of that 1600 range.
Awesome. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
A lot of congratulations to those successes. And I think a big takeaway for the audience is the importance of incorporating systems inside of your day-to-day workflows. That is an area of real estate that is oftentimes overlooked, oftentimes forgotten, oftentimes scary to implement. But the reality is, no matter what business you're running, having appropriate systems is key. We are oftentimes wanting to measure our successes off of that big win, right? And as we go through social media and as we look at society, that big win is exciting. Hey, I got that one big contract. I got that one big opportunity. But the reality is, when you're in business, growth happens through consistently hitting those little wins and making sure that you're hitting those little wins consistently and growing through that process. And the only way to accomplish that is by having appropriate systems in your day-to-day workflows. So, as we sit here, no matter what type of business you're running, again, we're in real estate, making sure that we have those appropriate systems that we can fall back on is very important. Not only will it help us measure our business growth, because without systems, how can we even measure how we're growing? How can we appropriately tie KPIs to different factors? Systems also keep us grounded. I mean, as we know, we are in a very emotional business. When the emotions are high, what do we need to fall back on? We need to fall back on our consistency, our systems that we have implemented. So there's so much value that comes with making sure that we have those appropriate systems in play.
Yeah. And I would also say that, one, if you think about where she's at now, which is 12 employees and, doing thousands of transactions, that is going to be scary. Like if you are not doing that, like, don't try to make that the end goal today. Like what you have to do is think about what's the next step. I was having a conversation with someone, who was a solo agent, very successful. They had basically a TC and they got to a place where, that TC was going to start doing transactions because they were licensed. And so then they hired someone else. And so like in my mind, I'm thinking like, hey, this is the first steps of this being built, And so as this relationship matured on like hey, this person wants to start growing, they want to start doing transactions, it's going to look a little bit different. She had to then replace that with someone else. And so she went out and found someone else to, and so it was like the building blocks and it was like getting going. And it's like, to me, I know what that's like, because if you think, I get a lot of people are like, hey, you guys are corporate, whatever. Like we started with 0 agents. We started with me as the broker here in state of Florida and Lewis as like our compliance, but like we started basically with nothing. And so now obviously we have hundreds of employees and we're all across all 50 states. And we have regionals. Like none of that you could plan for in the very beginning. Yes, you're going to have some ideas of the hierarchy and the structure and all those things, but you have to put one foot in front of the other. So don't allow the big picture to be scary to you. Just figure one step out at a time. And so, Christie, my kind of next question is, you alluded to this, when you got to a place where you referrals and you kind of felt like you needed help, and then your husband came in and he said, hey, let me help. You kind of had those initial building blocks. What was that first thing that you realized when you said, okay, I need to start expanding? Like, was it a transaction? Was it a desire? Was it, hey, I'm doing this by necessity? Like what brought that change on in your business?
I think it was tears.
Tears. Yeah.
I think it was that I felt so stressed and I was just going 24/7 and there was no, it was, I was going from one appointment. He would drop a file off in my car and say, hey, after this appointment, there would be a Post-it note on it. You need to be at this appointment at 4:00. They called in while you were in this appointment, and he would leave the folder in my car and I would go. And a funny story, there was we were at this point, we were a team, but we still, it's all about growth and what happens when grow, how do you know when it's time to grow? Well, I was doing all of our listings and I was going on probably 4 or 5 listing appointments a day. I had a great conversion rate and I was just pushing and pushing and pushing. And I ran out the door one day with one of the files and I fell off the curb. And I had this wonderful pair of pants. It was, I didn't buy expensive things because we just didn't have the money to. And I ripped a hole in my pants, started bleeding. And I walked back inside, put the file on the counter, and I said, call him and tell him I can't make it. And I at that point, I realized that a lot of times we try and hold that because we think that we can do it better than anyone else. And the truth of the matter is people aren't hiring you because you can do it better than anyone else. People are hiring you because of the systems and processes you have in place. And that's where I really started growing, is realizing that it's not me, it's we. And when you put the right people in the right place and you don't try and stick a square peg in a round hole, but you have the systems, you have the people, and you have that structure in place, that's where real growth happens. So it truly was, it was blood and tears when I realized that we really need to start growing. And so from there, it was hiring. You start with admin. You always leverage and you lead with revenue. And you start with admin to start taking it off your plate. And then you hire from there. Once your admin is maxed out and you're maxed out, then you start hiring agents from there. So it's definitely been a learning process, but I feel like if I could go back and I knew what I did now, we'd probably be in a lot different place.
And we always say that too. It's like, hey, if you hire a TC, you're not going to pay them till the end of the transaction. So you're going to get paid. You're going to take a portion of that revenue and you're going to allocate it towards a person who helped that transaction. Whereas, you know, if you do it other ways and you're paying someone out of your pocket. And so you always want to do that, like you said, revenue leading, I guess, hiring first, which means that, hey, this person's paid at the end of the transaction, just like me. Because when you have a different administrative staff, and maybe their hourly or their salary, that's something you're going to have to continue to pay regardless of whether you're closing transactions or not. But as you're getting started, hiring that TC, which is transactional, can be a great way to start leveraging and building that momentum without taking that financial risk on personally.
Yeah, and it comes in different levels, right? Because a lot of us in the audience today may be feeling like, hey, like I'm still operating my workflows or my pipeline off of an Excel sheet. You know, just implementing a CRM and making that investment can make a drastic change inside of your businesses. And I love the story how you talked about, Christie. Well, you know, what was the breaking point was through tears. Funny enough, that is what happens to most of us. Like we're growing, we're feeling the stresses, we're feeling pinched inside of our businesses, and then something happens that makes us have to like reshift our focus. Like it could be easier. You know, this job does not have to be this difficult. And that oftentimes tends to be the thing that drives us to start evaluating other ways to create efficiencies around our businesses. And what I would advise us here today is, you know, if you're not at that breaking point place yet, you know, and you're feeling good about the business, like if you don't have processes and you don't have systems incorporated in your day-to-day, like I strongly encourage you to start evaluating that and figuring out what are ways that you could conveniently start incorporating this into your day-to-day workflows. Because again, you may be sitting there thinking that these processes and systems are going to create restrictions. They're going to make you feel robotic. The reality is it creates freedom. It creates the opposite effect, not what you inherently think is going to happen. You will unlock more times. Now, granted, there is going to be the sacrifice as you're evaluating what systems to use and testing certain things, whether something works. Maybe there's an economic, working backwards that takes place because you got to draw these investments, whether it's inside of a CRM or with a VA or staff or splitting commissions with other agents. But in the long run, if you are looking to grow and you are looking to scale, it will bear additional fruits as you start having these systems work inside of your business.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so we've got that. We understand the importance of that. So, Christie, now that you've got your systems put in place, and maybe you're still kind of tweaking or adjusting based on what's happening in the market. From an agent perspective, what are your most productive agents doing? Like, what are the actions? What is the thing that's working right now in today's market with your most productive agents?
It's the day-to-day. It's the consistency. And when a lot of times as agents, we ride the real estate roller coaster. We get really busy with our transactions, and we're going up because we have 2 or 3 transactions. We know we're going to have 2 or 3 closings, and we stop focusing on what got us there. And what got us there is typically that consistency. So what's your superpower? Are you great on the phone? Are you great in person? You've got to find your superpower in order to build your pipeline. And that superpower is going to help you get from riding the roller coaster to a consistent upward trajectory. And so hop off the roller coaster and do that consistency day over day. And sometimes it does get monotonous. And sometimes you don't want to take 2 hours to prospect in the morning because it's just not fun. And it's a lot of no's, and we don't like rejection. And as humans, we want immediate gratification. And in this business, you're not always going to get that. So our agents that are most productive and most successful have that layer of consistency day over day. They time block their calendars, and they don't ever remove anything. They move it. I always say, if you've got a 2-hour block for your prospecting, whatever it is that you're doing, move it, but never, ever remove it, because that takes that consistency out of the equation. And that puts you back on that crazy roller coaster where you're up and then you're down and then you're panicked.
I absolutely love this point, because one of the biggest things we see happen is, we get into this business. I need to start building a pipeline of customers. I'm going to go out there, do the hard work, the sweat equity. I'm going to go do the door knocking, the open houses. And as we're doing these functions, we're thinking to ourselves, I cannot wait till I no longer have to do this ever again.
Right.
And I guess it may be okay to like not be the one physically doing it, but as we're growing, we got to figure out how do we leverage pieces around us to allow these things to still be in play, because the reality is that's what got us to the next level. So why are we shutting off those functions? We know they work.
Right.
You know, we're sitting here with no customers. We're putting in the work. We're reaching out to other agents. We're asking to sit in open houses. We're getting buyer leads. We're getting seller leads. Like, it works. It produces results. But then when we get to a certain level, we're like, oh, we can shut that down because we no longer have to do it because I have this other business coming in over here. Well, what if there was a world that that's still cooking, that is still growing? You've now unlocked this new avenue, and now you have both things attributing to the growth and attributing to your successes. And that's why no matter how big you get, no matter how many transactions you're doing, you know, you never want to forget about the things that you are doing that got you there. You're going to want to figure out ways, even though it may not be you doing it, finding ways to leverage other things that allow those things to keep going and to continuously grow as well, in addition to these new efforts that you're unlocking.
Yeah, that's a great point. One thing that I would add to that is, in your example, maybe you're doing the open houses or door knocking. We would consider that more sweat equity, right? Like, doesn't cost a lot of money, just takes your time and effort to go do those things to produce the results. But maybe you're not enjoying it. And so you're like, hey, I can't wait till I don't have to do this anymore, because when I do that, then I'm going to start, I don't know, purchasing leads. And then, you know, maybe that doesn't go quite as well. And then you have to revert back, you know, and so you go through that whipsaw effect as well too. And so one thing that I would definitely say, there's certainly tons of different ways to run your business. Some of the most effective ways are going to be some of those things like open houses and whatever, but maybe that's not something that you want to do. You don't want to grow your business that way. Maybe there's another avenue, like maybe it is third-party leads or whatever, Facebook ad, who knows, whatever you decide to do. You ultimately have to have that grounded before you switch away from something else, right? So maybe you don't have the ability to afford third-party leads at the time, and you're doing the sweat equity, which you don't enjoy, and your version of success is to stop doing this and eventually replace this with this. But that path between the middle, if this hasn't really taken root, then you can actually put yourself backwards, because you've turned off the engine that was producing. You've added expense to your, you know, to your bottom line or whatever, or to your monthly nut. And then now it is turned off. And so now you feel the pressure of that, you know, so then you're panicking and you're trying to go back to what worked in the very beginning. And now you've lost the momentum. That, like, we see that over and over and over again. And so my advice to you there is that as you're building these systems, please just make sure that add things to it, evaluate it, make sure it's up and running, it works well. And then if you want to eliminate something off your plate and double down on something that you know is proven and working, do that. But that is the pinch that we always see young entrepreneurs do as they're trying to make those game plans.
The systems and the processes are key, because that consistency not only applies to your pipeline, it applies to everything in real estate. It applies to everything in your business. And there's a great book. I always think Mike Wachowski from Monsters, Inc., but it's Mike Makowitz, I think is the name of it. But the book is Clockwork. And it's about creating systems and about creating efficiencies in your business to help your business run like clockwork. I've actually read the book and I've reread it probably 3 times now. There's a revised version, and I went back and listened to that because I want to constantly improve. Again, it's that consistency. So every time you go on an inspection with a client, you meet them at the inspection. So here in Texas, we have our option periods, but it's that consistency of what you're doing each and every time, the information that you're providing the client. Are you going through the home warranty? Are you talking about a clue report with them? All of the things that you're doing each and every time at that inspection. Every time you meet with a client at a listing appointment, all the things you're doing each and every time, that consistency throughout it. Your day-to-day prospecting, that consistency throughout it. And I think a lot of times we get bored with the consistency and we just either don't use our checklist, we don't use our systems, and we try and wing it. And that's where we start veering left instead of going forward.
That's right.
Yeah. It's always hard to run your business just off of memory, right?
Yeah.
Like you leaning back on something that's grounded is so important to push the needle forward. And then also, like, for some of us, we may be thinking, hey, we have systems, we have a workflow. When was the last time we inspected it? When was the last time that we ensured that things weren't broken and things were working the way that they are? You never want it to get too far off the rails before we try to bring it back on the rails, because then again, you are putting yourself behind the 8 ball that much more by letting that much more time go by without inspecting what's going on in your workflows.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so another quick question for you. So what are your goals for 2026? Like, you've had this great team, great culture. You're here at LPT now. What does the, future Christie Cannon team look like?
So I went through this with our team last week, and I said, what do we want to do? What we need that roadmap. Everybody, you need to always have a goal, because that goal creates your roadmap, and that roadmap tells you what to do each and every day, week, month, quarter, and year. And so we are shooting for 2,000 transactions this year. And we want to double the size, because we have such amazing opportunity. We have everything that, I always say we probably do too much, but it's plug and play. Whenever we built this team, Kevin started with us in 2007, and our goal was to build a team that we as agents would want to plug into and grow with. And so we have agents that have been with us 10, 11 years, and that's what we want to have, that culture. We want people to have that confidence and that success. And so the guardrails are off, and we are so ready to rock and roll this. And so 2,000 transactions, and we want to double in size. So 2,000, it's the year of the twos, 200 agents and 2,000 transactions.
We love that. All right. So if you are in the Texas area and you are interested in understanding her and her team and maybe what it could do for you in your business, we would implore you to reach out to her and just get an understanding. Of course, your business is yours to choose. There's always options here at LPT. But when we see exceptional teams like this, we want to make sure that if that fits your definition, that we make that connection. So Christie, thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure. We know how much you are doing and how busy you are. So we really appreciate you taking the time to stop with us and educate our agents on what's working right now. And we'll continue to have you back on maybe quarterly. We'll watch your progress. We're going to cheer you on throughout the course of 2026 to see how you're doing against your $2,000 transaction goal and your 200 agents. And hopefully there's some connections that are made from this podcast today. So Lewis, any final words for you?
No, go out there, guys, and continue to, evaluate your business and grow. That's what it's all about. Obviously we all have our own individual definition of success. Some of us may be sitting there and say, hey, that's not necessarily my goal. I'm kind of good where I'm at. Even if that's the case, having these systems that we've discussed here today can just maybe make your day-to-day feel that much easier. So, just again, evaluate truly what are your goals, what are your aspirations, where do you want to be in, 12 months, 24 months, 3 years, whatever the case may be, and put in the hard work to achieve that vision that you have for yourself and for your livelihoods and your families.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, guys, well, we will conclude it here. We'll see you this Monday for Motivational Monday. We're going to be breaking down the market. Of course, we've got some new announcements on some products that's going to be coming out. I will tell you there's some new luxury collection things that are happening that we're super excited about rolling out for. And so you'll hear maybe a little bit of preview about that this Monday with founder Robert Palmer, founder, CEO of LPT. So have a blessed and prosperous weekend, and we'll see you Monday.